Hey, Peter, I've got an interesting question for you. This is not related to Doug at all. Well, it's related to Doug, but it's not
You
for
want me to
Doug.
take a five? Should I come back
That
later?
that'd be best. Yeah. I'm just wondering, did you get the invite to go hang out in New York with him last couple days, or because
Did
I didn't
I? Come
either.
on. I don't get invited to anything, Dylan. I just get excluded from the MGA you guys are building. I get excluded from all these events.
Ooh,
Oh wow, we're bringing that back
All
up.
up.
Ouch.
I live it almost vicariously through seeing Doug hungover on these recordings, all the events that I miss out.
not gonna lie, little hungover. Was partying with our boy Chris in New York last night.
And Andrew Daniels, right?
And Andrew Daniels of
Who
Crash
else?
Bay fame. Oh,
Name names.
shit.
Tell me who I should be texting right now to wake them up.
Risha from Arch, who's like, when the hell am I coming on the show? And I was like, I invited
Tomorrow?
you. You sent me a list of demands back on questions that we're just not serious about, like questions you would ask if you work for a big carrier. Like, can I, can we talk about certain topics? I forgot that she had sent that to me. So anyway, she wants to come on. We had Bob from Place Cover was there, former guest.
Nice.
Chris, obviously a former guest. There's another former guest.
Who's the person the furthest in the picture you sent me last night and the closest in that picture you sent last night?
Furthest, very cool guy from MSI. First time I sat next to him at dinner last night. He has a podcast about startups in general, but some insurance focus because he works at MSI. I can't remember his name. Nice guy. We should have him on podcast doing podcasts.
Ooh,
So talking about podcast, I saw that our friend Matt Connolly and Nigel Walsh have got a podcast that they've launched as well.
What?
So
okay. Listen, there's too many podcasts. This ours should be the last one.
Yeah.
Are you saying we should stop what we're doing?
Yeah, definitely.
No. Like we should be the last one. I don't want
the last one
these other podcasts.
We're gonna do this Highlander style. There can only be one.
There can only be one. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Love those guys. I'm happy that they're starting a podcast. There are definitely people that I know that shouldn't start a podcast.
Name names. Yeah. Who?
Peter Tilbrook, Dylan Brand.
Yeah, sorry, Dylan Brand.
Actually, do you think those guys need a third?
Yeah.
You can go over.
I wouldn't put it past you. And your consistent betrayal of this show.
No, listen. I'm wearing my Scout shirt today because I want people to go to the event. I was holding people hostage last night at the bar. We paid for all the drinks, Scout and tourists. It was very nice of us. But as they walked out, I asked for their credit card and signed them up for the Scout event with our discount code.
Yeah. See, next time you really got to get them at the beginning, right? Got to get them as they're walking in.
You need to give them a few drinks, and then the wallet loosens up.
Yeah, but everyone wants the drinks. That's the carrot. That's the time they're vulnerable when they're thirsty.
So don't give them a drink until they sign up. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm too kind, I guess.
Yeah, such a generous
humble
man.
Very humble.
Super humble.
Hey, Peter, you did miss out on a lovely weekend in Florida. Generosity of Dylan's friend. We had CJ from Reserve there, who
he's naming names.
Dylan and I both point blank asked why he's not coming on the show, and he said that the show is awful, and he doesn't want to hurt his profile as he's trying to work on his.
He's like, Nigel though started this podcast, and I'm thinking I'm gonna jump on that. Yeah,
gonna do that one. Yeah. And then I met this guy Bing Wong from Crash Bay. Who is a character. Loved him.
They're a nice company.
Very cool company. They're a co-portfolio company of yours, right, Peter?
They are.
With Marked, Derek over at Marked.
It's like comparing podcasts here. We're going to compare more successful people against ourselves. But I'm not in the business of doing that.
Bing, quick story on Bing. So I'd never met him before, but hilarious guy, very fun to hang out with. Dylan, when you had to head out, him and I spent a couple hours on the beach on Sunday. And fun fact about Bing, he doesn't believe in sunscreen. So and purposely tried to be in the sun as much as possible. So he very nice, generous, bought us a cabana, which I thought we would use for shade. And he's like having a conversation with me 5 feet away just so he could be fully in the sun. And he sends me a text message that evening. And he's like, "Are you burnt?" I was like, "No, but I bet you are." It was just,
that sun is strong in my eye. I've got seriously burnt there myself. Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's just Canadians don't get the sun. They don't understand how it works.
That was like his year's supply of sun, probably, in that one afternoon.
Yeah. He's probably feeling pretty good right now. All that vitamin D, just
be like a lizard going through the next layer of skin. Yeah.
Or can't move. Yeah.
I was hanging out with my own friends, Doug. In London.
Cool. Peter, you have friends?
I have one other friend.
Oh, I saw that.
Marcus.
Picture. Yeah, my buddy Marcus.
Wait, Marcus?
Yeah, Marcus.
Newberry. Okay.
We should stay quiet on the interesting things they have working on. I don't know what's
popular. They have a lot of interesting things, But more interestingly, we took him to play some cricket in a pub, which he enjoyed. I think.
Wait, you can play cricket inside of a pub?
Yeah, it's like, you know how they have batting cages and stuff. It's similar. Yeah.
You set the wicket on the little stand thing.
You choose your level of how you want to face the ball, and we chose world class, and we're unable to hit any of them.
I don't. That's the one sport I don't get, Peter. I don't understand.
I know we'll do a whole podcast on it one day.
To baseball, we should have
the final podcast.
We'll have Nigel and company on, and they can explain. You and them can explain cricket to us.
We should get the leading MGAs from big cricket nations like Australia and India, and get them on and get them talking about cricket. We could do that for a while.
Yeah, it'd be quite
be a new low for the podcast.
That's hurtful to cricket. I'm sure it's interesting. You guys can explain cricket to us, and we'll explain capitalism to you.
Sounds great. Actually, our guest may or may not. We're gonna have to ask him if he likes cricket. He's
or capitalism.
I'm pretty confident he likes capitalism. I'm just saying.
You know what he does love?
What's that?
Starting organizations.
Yes. Very cool ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, nice segue.
Which he's going to come on and tell us more about.
Is this our first non-scout guest that's a twofer? Because
I think
Chris
so.
is,
William's coming on.
With him.
William's coming on the second time. So we're going to bring William on. Listen, he loves starting organizations, or an organization that he's going to tell us about. He loves fine art. I don't know if you guys remember from the last show. And I have not taken him up on his offer for lunch at the Met yet, but I need to do that. We need to get a bit of culture on the show. That's why we're bringing William on again.
He is so much more sophisticated than we are.
And more so than all of our guests as well.
That's true. He really brings legitimacy to our
best
show.
Guest.
Yeah,
best guests ever. So why don't we bring William on and we'll chat about what he's building. William, what's up, man?
Hi, guys. Sir. Good to see you.
How you doing?
Hey, William.
You look like you are in a European hotel right now.
Yeah, he's got a kettle behind him.
Well done, Doug. Yes, that is correct. I'm in a very European hotel, halfway up a mountain in Switzerland. So,
lovely.
It's
now I only know that because I was trying to get you to come to this event in New York last night, and you had said that you were in.
I'd love to have come to that. Yeah, thank you for the invitation. But yeah, no, I'm however many thousand miles away.
Yeah. Well, if you had come, you would probably be in a similar state to where I am right now, feeling a little under the weather.
Oh, really? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, we've been breathing the mountain air up here, so I'm feeling reasonably fit.
Yeah. You and Peter, so healthy. Dylan and I, on the other hand, I don't know. Dylan, we need to change our lives. We'll work on that right after the show.
Well, you're the one who went from Miami straight into New York to go plow through this event, so that's impressive.
It's called salesmanship, Dylan.
Good job.
Yeah,
good job.
Doing my best. William, what's up? I want to hear. Let's talk about. FAS or FA.
So good to see you all. Yeah, it's been. I can't remember when we last spoke, but it's
probably
been
a year ago.
Quite the journey since then, because we're about to hit our 100th member, Doug. So we started at the beginning of November, so not
Wow.
so long ago. And we're at 97 members now, 58 or 9 MGAs, and then carriers and service providers. Loro is a sponsor, which is terrific and much appreciated. I think what we were talking about last time is sort of coming to pass in a sense, right? There's a real demand for a place where MGAs can come together with capacity providers, with service providers, the entire ecosystem on a pan-European level. And there are these great associations that already exist in the UK, in the Netherlands, in Italy, and Spain, with which we work closely. But there has been nothing at pan-European level, and there seems to be real demand for that. So the number of times I've been told your timing for this is good, I can't count. I mean, it's been terrific. So we've had great take up, and it's been really encouraging.
Love that. So the acronym is it's French, right? French words.
This was something that surprised me because I didn't expect. I thought, well, at least we got a straightforward name because everybody will be able to pronounce it. And, you know, I've always been sort of frustrated with, and you sometimes see it in the MGA world, and I won't name anybody, but, you know, come up with names that are not that easy to pronounce. And you think, oh, well, how the hell are you supposed to say that?
Yeah.
And then you get it wrong, right? And they say, no, it should be pronounced like this. Well, I thought phase, which is what I call it, because I'm English, was going to be straightforward. But what's happened, and I understand it now, is because we have formally got a French name, the Fédération des Agences de Souscription Européenne. People say it's phase, so, you know, they want to try and pronounce it in the French way, which is fine too. And obviously the French will pronounce it phase, and the Italians will pronounce it phase, and so forth. So you can call it what you like, Doug, because it's, you know, I think it'll still be recognizable with any pronunciation. But I call it phase because, as I say, I'm English, and that's easier for me to pronounce it like that.
Well, William, you're in good company because you've got ITC who went with InsurTech spelled a slightly different way. Right, it's the E versus no E, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then there are entities like WSIA. A lot of people like to call it WSIA, but my understanding is when they formed and changed that name to WSIA, they wanted people to say WSIA.
Yeah.
But then everyone just uses the acronym as a word, right?
Yeah, so and it's hard. You can't legislate for these things, you know. To be honest,
it's tricky.
You know, you can't. The name belongs in a way to the people that are using it. It doesn't completely. I mean, you can trademark it, but it doesn't completely belong to you in that sense. And you can't just sort of crack the whip and tell everybody to call it phase or phase or whatever, or WSIA or WSIA. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. This is good to know because I've been telling everyone that Loro is a member of FASE, the Spanish way. So
well, exactly. So you have that background, Peter. Yeah. You know that is what it would be called in Spain, and that's fine. And we're having our big event, as you know, our big annual conference is going to be in Barcelona on the 11th and 12th of May, which I think is going to be a great event. We're co-hosting that with ASARSE, the Spanish MGA Association. So that will definitely be the pronunciation du jour or des jours in Spain. Yeah.
What I'm learning here is I don't know how to say any words properly. Yes, that's what's happening here. We
can't all post in foreign languages like Doug, who constantly puts up foreign language posts on LinkedIn. So
one time. You know, I was thinking of William when I posted that because I was like, I'm trying to class up my own feed here. So, but
I mean, one of the great things about the technology that's now available is that you know, I think I can't remember what we talked about. You know, the Tower of Babel has sort of collapsed. It doesn't exist anymore in the way that it did. So you can do things pretty well simultaneously, and the quality of the translations you can get through technology now is really good. So, I mean, that has been, you know, frankly, that's been a help to us. It would be difficult to produce some of the content that we've been producing in multiple languages as quickly and easily as we can. Even 5 years ago, I think, frankly, we'd have had to have, professional translators looking at it and all that kind of stuff, and you don't have that. I did have a wonderful experience with an MGA that shall be nameless, but it was a German MGA that I looked at. Well, it doesn't need to be nameless because it's not their fault, but it's the way in which the language was translated into English, and it just sort of reminded me of how young and undeveloped and unfamiliar this space is in Europe, because the translation was a Q&A about what is an MGA, and it was in German, but when it got translated into English, it ended up as complete gobbledygook, because the word for MGA from the translation into English was exactly the same as the word for insurance company. So what happened is that the translation read an MGA, an insurance company is an insurance company that is not an insurance company. It's bizarre fashion. So there are a few things left that you need to watch out to make sure that they are being correctly translated. But for the most part, it's a great support now that you can translate things instantly.
Quick questions for everybody who's, I guess, for Peter and William. What language is it? Is it per, if you're writing a policy and you are a UK-based MGA, but you're spreading into Spain, let's say Germany, what languages is that policy going to be in? Do you need to, is it required that it's now in German and Spanish?
I believe you need to be in the language of where the policy holder is. I don't think you can avoid that, Dylan. I mean, if you have a sort of multi a global risk or a multi-territory risk on a maybe on a syndicated basis, whatever, then I'm not sure how that works. I should imagine you can have it in a single language and that would be that. But if you've got, a dentist in Nîmes, and you're insuring them as an MGA, then I think you need to have a French policy so that the dentist can know what they're covered for.
If only we knew a policy admin system that had European customers.
Multi-languages, yeah. The interesting thing, Dylan, so we found this when I used to do the underwriting side from Spain across Europe. It really depends on the kind of customer you're insuring. So a lot of the large commercial groups that were based in, say, the Netherlands or Belgium or whatever, would be quite comfortable to have policies in English a lot of the time. But as William correctly says, as you go down to more SME and certainly individual policies, it's always going to be in the language of the country or region, which is another challenge because a lot of the countries have multiple languages throughout them. So, there's a lot of work to do.
It's got three official languages in Switzerland. Well, then there's also, it's quite complicated. But the Swiss make it work, which is fantastic. It is amazing how well this country operates with using all the languages they do.
The insurance regulation is through the EU, though, right? Like that's
no, it's international.
Oh, okay.
So is there any equivalent to like ISO where you're going to have policy language that it can be used, for every insurer in a specific country and or across Europe?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's any equivalent to the ISO standard forms to the same extent as there is in the States.
It just seems like such a tricky problem, with ISO language gets tested through litigation from those claims over and over again, right? Because same language each time.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, it just seems like such a tricky thing to have to then litigate. And I know that no one litigates more than Americans, but still, there's
as you know, the Lloyd's market has wordings, definitely, and
sure,
so.
But if they can't be used in English, right, in another country, then that it's only useful to.
It's pretty common.
UK,
pretty common
right?
Clauses, though. So, say for example, you're doing a cargo risk in Spain or France, you'd still follow the common cargo clauses most of the time. It'd be rare to deviate from market standard, not necessarily, you know, legislative standard, but what the market has deemed acceptable type language to be using in these policies would be pretty common. Yeah.
Sure.
There's a huge, I mean, there's a huge kind of impetus, you know, to your point, Peter, I think for people not to come up with different wordings. One of the things that was interesting about this, because I looked at this quite closely, we did quite a lot of work at Beazley on trying to improve, when I was with Beazley, trying to improve the policy wordings, particularly for small businesses, because they were quite challenging in some cases. And this idea that such and such a wording, it may be horrible and it may be incomprehensible, but it's been tested in court, was not often the case. It actually hadn't been tested in court, most of it. There are some clauses that have been tested up the wazoo and, you know, to an amazing degree. But most language in policies has not been tested, that hasn't come up. So it's not as if it's been through some sort of furnace and come out, you know, unscathed the other side. It's just immemorial usage is the reason that the language is being used, and I think it's still a real challenge, and it's an area. It's one of all of these areas where MGAs could improve upon the current customer experience. Frankly, is having clearer, simpler language around what the coverage is, because it's still a sort of wall of jargon generally for the policyholder, particularly if it's personal lines or a small business policyholder.
That's true. But I remember Lemonade trying to make a big deal of their policy 2.0. This was probably 10 years ago now. And Dylan, I think maybe I was chatting with you about this, and you're like, this is nuts, because yes, you can boil this down, but to your point, all of the essence has been created through multiple litigations, statutory revisions, bulletins, case law,
over and over again.
And very specific reasons that those wordings exist.
But again, Doug, I mean, I think that case law idea is not valid. You know, it's not valid to be fair, that it's the wordings have been tried and tested in some way. I mean, if you say the test is one of the tests is can the policyholder understand them, then they haven't been tested at all, or they've been wanting, frankly.
100%. Like I agree with that. I think it is a bit of a catch-22 though, because from a risk mitigation standpoint.
Well, exactly. So yeah, and then if you're thinking about MGAs, right, and then they want to get support for the coverage which they're providing from capacity providers, then you don't want that to be a bone of contention.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually also on the broker side, right? Because if you're, for example, trying to sell this through a retailer, and that retailer doesn't understand your policy language because it's non-standard, do they really want to take the risk of they've got to now read the entire thing so they can fully understand it, and then they might not even fully understand it, and then it's a challenge for them to sell that. What incentive do they have to sell a policy that they don't fully understand if it's got differing?
But isn't that more? Don't you think that's more exciting, Dylan? The fact that I remember we had sessions that
not exciting for a retailer.
Well, hear me out. Yeah. Well, that's generally this show considers interesting types of exciting. So William's point, when he was at Beazley designing and working on some of this language, and we did the same when I was on the underwriting side as well with the in-house team, and we create different solutions and clauses to address different risks and problems. Don't you think that's kind of, I always felt that's something that's so limited in the States, in that flexibility to create things, where in Europe, because it's not so litigious as an environment, you do have more wiggle room to create things and design solutions. And then part of your job as a sophisticated seller of sophisticated products is to educate your brokers, and for them in turn to educate their clients, and because of that you get a much more dynamic and exciting and differentiated offering to the end customer. I see that as positive. I understand the risks and the US mindset of the litigation concerns, but I think the European model is much more client friendly at the end of it because of that.
I am not going to disagree with you, but a different view on that is that the ENS market already essentially does what you're talking about, where it can produce any form it wants and have all kinds of weird manuscript language. Okay, but that's only limited to entities that really need to be in the ENS market, right? It allows for a variety of different products that are truly different and can pump those out quickly. So that does exist, but it's not going to be for necessarily an individual homeowner, unless we're talking about high value property that can go to the ENS market, where they have a very unique, very unique, large, a lot of assets that need to be insured. So, I do agree that there's some benefit to that. And the other thing is, I'd love to see plain English policies. I'd love to see that in the US. I would love ISO to adopt plain English policies. And that's part of, I think, what Lemonade was trying to do, Doug, when we were talking about that. But there's certain things that cannot be in plain English only because the word itself is something that is legalese, like the word subrogation, right? There isn't a different word for that, and people need to learn that word. It is a legal word. They need to understand arbitration clauses, right? Because that is a process, right? That they have to understand. Or not, which is really what's happening in real life, right?
That gets into I think, Dylan, that gets into the different, because as I say, we spent quite a lot of time sort of looking at this, and I think there's a fundamental different mindset between the way in which the insurer looks at the policy that they produced and the way in which the policyholder looks at that policy. And the policyholder almost invariably looks at it as a kind of toolkit. They want to pull out the spanner or the wrench or whatever it is and say, is this fit for purpose for whatever potential claim I've got? Am I covered for X, whatever it is, right? So it's a toolbox for the policyholder. For the insurer, it's a kind of engine, right? It's the totality of the engine, all of the moving parts with all of the clauses, and that's why it says read this policy carefully before you, when you're buying it. You're not supposed to read all 70 pages of it, which of course nobody ever does. But it's a fundamentally different conception, because the insurer will feel generally that it all matters, that clause 73B really matters, and it is important that it's all there. And so I think it's a different sort of mindset. The way in which you can address it, I think, and nobody's really done it. Lemonade did try to do it. We actually tried to do this as well at Beazley, is to digitize it, to turn the declaration page at the front of the policy, to incorporate that in the policy. So you don't have a sum insured, you have a particular sum of $100,000 or euros, whatever it may be, for a particular peril actually embedded in the policy wording. And you don't have a named insured, and you don't have all these terms that make the policy itself very abstract. And if you do that, you can make it into a much more user-friendly, much more comprehensible thing, just literally by doing that. But I think the problem is that a lot of, even if you do that, and the majority probably of policyholders are going to be kind of allergic to reading their policy, because Berkshire Hathaway tried this in the States, right? It was a policy called 3. It was a BOP policy which they issued several years ago, and it is admirably clear. Actually, it doesn't digitize it in the way that I talked about, but it is still admirably clear, very, 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 very short, 3 pages, and I don't know whether the demand is, how much the demand is there for that. I do think it's a problem that we still have as an industry, that we produce these 70, 80, 90 page policies that nobody's going to be able to read. But how much, even if you get it down to 5 pages, people are going to want to read it is a question.
Well, read and understand, right? So
yeah.
Probably why brokers, at least for the time being, are not going to be replaced by Claude. Speaking of Claude, I just quickly, Dylan, asked it to explain subrogation to me like I'm a 5th grader, and it just said no. So I think you're right.
Not you again, Doug. It said.
No, it said, aren't you in insurance? We tell people about this. All right. Well, so William, let's talk about phase. Sorry. with a Z. And what you guys are building, because we've had a bit of insurance chit chat here, but haven't really, other than you telling us that you crossed the 100-member mark, and you have the pleasure.
We're about to cross 100-member mark. We're 97, so any day
no
now.
false advertisement.
Well, there we go. Let's find 3 people, 3
right
MGAs.
now.
They may have come through while we've been talking. I mean, they have been really joining up to quite a rate. So yeah.
And I do think you should double charge that the policy admin system with the bird logo. But that's up to you. But yeah, tell us more about the organization, kind of what you guys are working on, who should be joining, both from a MGA perspective, but also vendor perspective, and then also about your event coming up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the city of Barcelona.
So our mission is to provide a forum and a voice for the delegated authority, the MGA sector in Europe on a pan-European basis. And I think it is something, well, I'm sure that it is something which is a network effects kind of concept. So the more entities join and participate, the more valuable it will be to all of them. So that's why I'm very pleased and grateful for everybody who sort of stepped up when there weren't many network effects, right at the beginning, and supported us from the get-go. But I think now we're beginning to build that with the numbers that are coming in. And essentially what you can do through phase, and particularly at our event, but not exclusively at the event, is MGAs can interact with capacity providers. And the interesting thing about those two markets, the MGA market and the capacity market, is that the former in Europe, or indeed anywhere, but in Europe in particular, is very localized. The MGAs are wherever they are writing business locally. And the latter, the capacity market, is a global market. And so I am hoping, and we're seeing this, we're seeing carriers coming in from, Bermuda and from the US, and I'm going to Hong Kong actually in April to talk to some insurers out there with Guy Carpenter. The global market can discover, who's writing what, who has the expertise in what lines of business across Europe. And so it's sort of surfacing that market for the benefit of the global capacity providers. And so that's really sort of core to the concept. The other element of it, which I think people are finding valuable and will hopefully find increasingly valuable as we develop this, is that the MGA markets across Europe are at different stages of development, different stages of evolution. And there's a lot of value, I think, in being able to share insights, share knowledge, share perspectives on how you can scale a business, for example, on a pan-European basis, how you can acquire the kind of skills that you need to do that, how you can build out an MGA platform, and we're covering multiple lines of business. All of those sorts of things are the knowledge is there. But we're working with organizations that can help share that knowledge and help those smaller businesses, those smaller MGAs. And we've got an interesting mix, a sort of a little bit of a barbell mix of MGAs that have signed up and joined us now. Big players, pan-European MGA platforms have joined, but also a lot of small, often family-owned, 10 million euro or less in premium terms, MGAs from 14 countries now, all over across Europe. And I think for them, there's a lot of value in being able to tap into those insights and that expertise. I think we might have mentioned on the last call that the last podcast that regulation is a real challenge across Europe for MGAs. And we're working very closely with Clyde & Co. and others to help map the regulatory landscape across Europe, which is the sort of second most important thing that MGAs said when we did some research about this before setting up phase, they really wanted. So I think that's going to be valuable. We're going to be writing about that in our in-house bulletin coming out in a couple of weeks' time, and building this digital map across Europe that help people understand that. So that's one of the sort of important issues that can slow the growth of MGAs if they don't get it right as they seek to expand in Europe. Technology, of course, is another key dimension, and it's actually central to the whole success that MGAs have had in the US and globally. And so I think what we want to do there, and will be doing more of, is working with our partners in that space to sort of explain how the technology landscape is evolving, looking at things like how AI can support MGAs as they grow, how they can really utilize AI to enhance the efficiency of their operations and improve their risk selection and all the different things that you can do with AI. So I mean, clearly that's going to be an enormous area as well, where we can share insights and expertise, I think.
What is we do have to talk about AI. I think it's just a given now in every show. What is the regulatory landscape like for AI? So in the US, I think there's some model legislation going around, and I haven't read it, so I'm basing this all off hearsay. But people that have don't seem super keen on it. At least those trying to kind of push the needle forward on the technology front. What's the tenor like in the EU on that item?
I think it's similar, Doug. I mean, it's an interesting question in terms of if you're thinking about it from a sort of a risk management perspective, because if you're an MGA working with a carrier and you're doing things that might be challenging from a regulatory perspective, and the thing in Europe is that the regulations vary from country to country. That's the nature of the challenge. There's not that much on a pan-European basis. There's GDPR and things like that, but on data privacy. But I think it is important for MGAs to ensure that they are aligned in this area with their capacity providers, right? Because otherwise, you may be doing amazing things, but if you're actually falling foul of some regulatory constraints, then that's going to redound to the detriment of your capacity providers as well. You're all in the same boat on that. So I think that's a thing to think about. But I think that there's the same level of caution among carriers in Europe that there is in the US. At a very high level, I do think that MGAs will, if you think about something like enhancing the efficiency of your operations, right, and getting fewer underwriters to be able to underwrite more business, which AI could potentially help with enormously. I think that it is likely that MGAs, and there are a lot that are working on those sorts of problems, will be leaders in that relative to large insurance carriers. And so I think we will see more dramatic efficiency gains on the underwriting side potentially from MGAs than we'll usually see carriers. That's just the sense that I have, which goes back to the whole thing about MGAs, the cliche about MGAs being nimble and quick and more adaptable and more versatile. But they've, as you all well know, they adopted SaaS technology systems much more effectively than carriers did. So I think we'll see that sort of pattern playing out in the future as well.
Yeah, I think Doug's made this point on LinkedIn maybe too many times, but the idea that your MGAs or carriers who have started 5-10 years ago or further back, right, are going to have this legacy systems that cannot keep up with a modern tech stack, and changing that is the biggest hurdle. I mean, I have, again, I'm not going to pretend to be a CTO, but the idea that a full carrier, a large carrier, can just pivot to modern architecture and change everything that they're doing, that's laughable. Like, we just know that every single carrier who says they're going to try to do this is, they're rightfully attempting to do something to make themselves relevant, but it's just impossible to, which is, I think, one thing that would push more people to the, fronting delegated authority model, right? If you're a carrier, you have the capital, you just start with, having delegated authority, you start with, and then you start purchasing those, and now you bring those into the fold. I still don't know how you make them, you have to essentially make that thing larger and not necessarily put all the MJs that you've bought into one, because now you have the same technology issue where you have varying companies with different technology stacks. I don't know the answer, but I think that I do know that it just makes it very favorable for a brand new MGA to get started. They have a huge advantage, and that also goes for the TPA side. We were just talking about hanging out with CJ from Reserve. They're technologically more advanced than any TPA, period. I mean, it's not close. I want to be clear.
And most of it's, well, I mean, there's definitely some customer facing aspects of that, but a lot of it is just like scaling up, still a people heavy business, but would have to be probably 3 to 4 times larger in manpower without AI, or how they're utilizing AI. I mean, I think, right, building new technology, whether it has an AI sheen or not, or building new processes right from scratch, which MGAs also have the ability to do, kind of this blank slate, no technical, no process, no culture debt, definitely is advantageous. I do think a lot, though, about how much AI is currently subsidized, and how we are, and this is with my company, like, we are layering in a lot of things that I know the cost of those things is not what we are paying for them. This is definitely the kind of Silicon Valley VC model of giving things out very cheaply, probably 90% less than they actually cost, just the actual cost to that company. What does happen when that pendulum swings? We're stuck. We now are stuck, right, with a lot of technical debt in something that maybe doesn't have longevity, or maybe at its true economic cost doesn't make sense as a business model. We saw it with Uber and Lyft, which slowly got their way out of that, but you used to be able to take a 20-block car ride in New York for $5, and everybody knew that was not the true value of that. Now we are doing $200 on a $200 subscription per user on Claude, getting a ton of work done, but that's probably costing Claude like $5,000 is my guess per month. So yeah, what does happen to these organizations, and including ours, which I worry a lot about when we are kind of relying so much on AI?
I think it depends. Sorry, William, I will let you come in on that, but I think it depends, Doug, for me, on how the wider picture, the direction of these companies and how they see revenue sources in the future. Because the classic, as we've seen in other tech advances, is they're very happy to keep accessibility free or at very low cost, because they need and desire people to be using it on a huge scale to make it valuable, and therefore can take certain advantages financially and economically from that use of scale. So there's probably a couple of directions I can see it going. The clear and obvious post-capitalist model that most people follow is get people hooked on your product and then up the price. So I can easily see that happening as well.
But it depends. The value depends on how much value you can extract from it, relative to those rising prices. And if you can write 10 times the amount of business with the same number of people, then the price has got to increase quite a long way for that not to be beneficial. But I think the thing Dylan, you were talking about, tech debt obviously isn't unique to insurance companies. And so this thing about MGAs, and we'll say, it's fabulous because they're young, adaptable. They're not always going to be young. They're not always going to be small. Some of them are really growing, to insurance company size now. And so in a sense, they're going to confront potentially those same issues going forward. I don't claim to understand at all what tech debt means in the AI age. I don't know what it looks like, or how it's going to manifest itself. Is it going to happen more quickly, and you'll have to move on to the next iteration more quickly? I just don't know how that's going to play out. But it's going to be a challenge, I think, that certainly the larger MGAs will face in common with the insurance companies, probably.
Yeah. I had a question for you, William. Oh, yeah.
No, go on.
For a very rare instance here, Doug, I've actually pre-prepared a question for William. It's been on my mind for a while. The level of research we go to on this show. So for me, William, one of the big interesting comparisons I've always had in my mind is European MGA versus US MGA and the differences of scale potential for the two. So I was really interested in your conversations with MGAs. What do you think is considered a success, either in terms of metrics or whatever, for startup MGAs in Europe? Where are they looking to get to?
I mean, I think a 50 million euro MGA in Europe is a decent sized MGA. I mean, that's a minority of MGAs are in that position. And I think, exciting thing about what we're trying to do at Phase is that if you are a Spanish MGA and you've been looking hitherto purely at the Spanish market for growth, we want to be able to help them and help MGAs in every other country begin to see Europe as their target market, right? And now that is easy to say and much harder to do. And it isn't just about regulation that we talked about earlier. It's about customs. It's about the whole approach to different forms of insurance. It's about, things like decennial liability and whether that applies in one country and isn't in sort of enforced in others. I mean, there's a whole range of things that mean that you need to adapt, and you can't simply sell the same policy in America. You can sell the same policy in Oklahoma that you sell in Wisconsin, right? If it's not coastal property or whatever, it's not specific to geography or something like that. You've got a much bigger, immediately addressable target market. And the other element in Europe, which is variable a lot, is the distribution and the ways in which you can plug into different distribution structures. So I think part of the reason that the Dutch market has been a significant market for MGAs, it's a very kind of intermediary-oriented market. It's a broker market fundamentally, and MGAs have sort of grown out of that, and there is that whole willingness in the Netherlands by the Dutch insurance companies historically over a long period of time to outsource, a good deal of business to MGAs that you don't see in the rest of Europe. And so there's all of those sorts of variations. What we would like to do is help make Europe a little bit less diverse and more boring and more like America in this respect, by helping MGAs view Europe as a single market. But we are a long way away from that, and that is what generates, I think, some of the demand for what we're offering through Phase is that somewhat frustrating diversity that Europe presents at the moment. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's a really interesting question. One of the things that we're going to be doing at the conference is one of the sessions we're going to have is Miles Waller from Ryan Specialty and Eric Mattson, who's now the chairman of Bridgehaven, are going to be talking about how the US market has evolved, the European market is evolving, and how much Europe may track the evolution for MGAs of the US. And there are ways in which I think it will. I think possibly the development of fronting companies in the capacity mix in Europe may be similar to what we've seen in the US, and there are other ways as well. But there's also these important differences, I think. So it's a complicated picture.
The Dutch are so good at so many things. It's not surprising that they're kind of the leaders here. So.
Thank you, Mr. Vermalm.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just basking in the gloriness of the Netherlands for a second there. I had to pause and catch myself. What amazing year to be Dutch. So tell us more about the conference. I'll get back on track here. Conference in Barcelona. The only thing I don't like about this conference, again, is that it's not in the Netherlands, but everything can't be perfect. Maybe next year.
Barcelona's okay too.
It's all right. It's all right. It's a little warm, but
it's Barcelona in May, so it should be very nice. And I think that part of the attraction, even to some of the Dutch MGAs, is the thought when you're surviving the Dutch winter that they just have, that Barcelona in May sounds quite appealing. So it's a day and a half, Doug. The 11th of May through to midday on the 12th of May. And it's a combination of two things, fairly classic, but I think extremely high quality sort of conference fair with people speaking from podiums like the session I just talked about, and providing insights and food for thought for everybody who attends. And that is going to be on the morning of the Monday, and then a chunk of the morning of the Tuesday. But the other part of it, which is responding to what MGA said they really wanted, is plenty of time to network. So to network with capacity providers and service providers as MGAs, and service and capacity providers to network with the MGAs. And it'll be a little bit like target markets in that sense, but we're looking to help people have efficient and productive meetings. So we're going to be talking to everybody who's coming and saying, can you provide us with some information on your risk appetite? If you're a capacity provider, can you provide us some information on your risk focus? If you're an MGA, and trying to match them up so that they can meet the people they really want to meet. And that's basically it. It's a beautiful location, but the Hotel Arts in Barcelona. I'm hoping we'll get a little bit of exercise in. I've spoken with Peter about doing a run along the waterfront on one of the mornings. So that would be fun to do as well. But I think it's going to be a great event, and I hope we've got the mix right between, as I say, standard kind of conference fare and listening to people talk, and actually getting to grips with the issues that you need to work on with capacity providers if you're an MGA, or MGAs if you're a capacity provider.
And then
I love
actually
keeping things healthy at these conferences with his runs.
And
sorry,
did I hear that the cathedral is just being completed, or at least its max height is now?
I think it is. I think it is. Yes, it's not right next to where we are, but you can walk.
We can run there. That's no big deal.
Definitely run there. Yeah. Yes, I think. Yeah, that's. Yes, I believe it has been completed. I thought the whole point of it was that it was never supposed to be completed, but I think they may have called a halt to it now.
So if people want to come to this event, have to be members? They should join?
No, they don't have to be members. I think we're thinking that next year they will need to be members, because I think we will have a critical mass by the end of this year so that we can make it a member-only event. If you can come as a non-member this year, and a number of organizations are. If you are a member, it's much better value. It's half price effectively for our members. As I mentioned, we're co-hosting it with the SARSE, which is an extremely vibrant Spanish association of MGAs. So we've created a microsite, mgarendezvous.com, so people can register there. and you can sign up to join Phase there as well. So yeah, it's going to be. I think it's. I mean, it's hard to know. We're a couple of months out now. How many we'll have? I think I've been saying sort of between 400 and 500 people. I think that's probably still the sort of ballpark that we're looking at. So yeah, it should be great.
And members, potential members are obviously MGAs. I imagine carriers, capacity, maybe investors, solution providers that are selling to the MGA space. All of the above could join.
Yeah, and you can see who our members are on our website. We've got a directory there at phasemga.com. But it's as I said, it's I think it's 58 or 59 MGAs now out of the 97 members, and then the next biggest group is carriers. Quite a number of brokers. And then a number of service providers, but it's a huge market, as you know. Not, I mean, in an extremely diverse market. So I think that there are a lot of organizations that have been watching from the sidelines and seeing how it develops, and I hope will join us.
We'll put Turris down for a future membership when we enter the EU.
Absolutely.
Not there yet, but I gotta keep up with Peter and all of his sponsorships. The only thing that I think is missing from this conference, William, is a live recording of Age of the MGA. Maybe next year. Think about that.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it next year. Yeah, I mean, by all means, I'm sure there'll be a great space where we could do that, and absolutely, we could.
We're going to do one at the Scout event. So let's see how that goes. If we completely tank that conference with this live show, and you'd be like, we're all right, Doug. Thanks. We're not going to do that with you.
So William, we will see you at Scout too, right?
I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to Scout, unfortunately.
Rejected.
I would love to. I'd love to come. I've just got quite a lot of commitments on this side of the pond, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Peter, what are we going to do since we've had William on before, and the legacy question? I mean, can you adjust your legacy answer? I didn't go back and look at what Williams was. Maybe we can do a side-by-side comparison, or maybe it's for the new organization. And I'm rambling now, but I'm just extremely.
I think that's a good idea, Doug. We could ask, the legacy or the. Yeah. Well, we've talked broadly about the mission of as I call it, FASE, but it would absolutely be interesting to see what the planned legacy for that organization would be, William, if you'd like to share that.
And before you answer, William, William was a guest with us at Legacy, the restaurant in New York.
Yeah, true.
William,
Legacy.
Yeah, Legacy. Yeah.
Sorry, Peter. When you say what the legacy of what we're aiming to build long term through Phase, you mean?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I think a more innovative, more integrated European insurance market fundamentally is what we're trying to do. I think that MGAs, we talked about this, I think, last time, the MGAs are at the forefront of innovation in a whole range of areas. I don't think that's going to change. I think that's going to continue. So if you're looking at some of the risks that European businesses and individuals confront, those are evolving, and I think MGAs are an important source of new thinking and new responses to those risks. And I think the integration point is important as well. That over time, and they're sucking in capacity, drawing in capacity from around the world, but including from Europe, and creating a more integrated European insurance market. One of the goals that I hope we will see, and I hope Phase can contribute to this in some way, although I'm not exactly sure how this would work, is to make insurance, the cost of insurance, more competitive, so that we can all enlarge the insured portion of total risk. And I think AI could potentially play a really interesting role in that if MGAs can leverage AI to become much more efficient and therefore much more cost effective. That could play a really interesting role. We're only at the beginning of that journey, but and what will FaZe be doing in that context? FaZe will be hosting that, really playing creating the forum where people can explore these new ideas and share insights and share expertise and perspectives. So it's a tent for the entire market to come together and grow. And I think that I'd be very happy with that as a legacy.
Well, William, thank you for spending another hour with us, even when you're in lovely Switzerland, and taking the time to tell us more about what you're working on. Very exciting. Can't wait to see the continued growth. And yeah, Peter, you'll have to report back on the conference. I assume you're going in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
let us know how it goes. And when you get back over here, let me know. I am going to take you up on that lunch at the Met, and you can culture me up a bit.
We should definitely do that, Doug. I'd love to do that. That'd be great. And so Peter, I look forward to seeing you in Barcelona. Definitely.
Barcelona, fantastic. Thank you so much, William. Great to see you again.
Great to see you all.
Buddy.
Thanks a lot.
Right.
Bye, guys.
Bye. What a great guy. I love him.
Yes.
Yeah. Peter, tell us more about, were you the first vendor to join, do you think, at FaZe?
I can tell you if we were or weren't, but
you're definitely the best.
I mean,
so
we were, of course, that goes without saying. We were aware of it for a while. Obviously from our first chat with William, we kind of got to know a little bit what the plans in essence were for it. And yeah, appealed for us straight away because again, all the points he mentioned, there's very little to represent pan-European MGAs, and partly from a massive interest in the market, having worked a little bit in it, and partly because, again, I think there's a great opportunity for a product like Loro to support these guys across these countries and different products they're launching. So for an absolute no-brainer for us to join. And cherry on top, we get to organize a run in Barcelona. I was like, yep, I'm in.
We have different cherries, but yeah, very cool. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see their growth. Dylan, we should go join next year.
Well, a couple of growth points here. It's amazing that the first time we spoke to him, it was just a concept. Now it's a real thing that's 2 months away from actually happening, a physical event. And that he's close to 100 members now. And then also at the time when we had him, I can't remember he was in the first 5-6 episodes. Mm-hmm. Our follower count was probably around 100 on LinkedIn. We had a handful of views. Yeah. Now we've broken 1,000 or shooting past that for LinkedIn followers. It's fantastic. We're getting great views, so that's exciting. I appreciate him coming on to the show now twice, and again lending his credibility to us. It's
he was lucky to be on when we have so many viewers now, right?
Oh yeah, right. No, I wouldn't say that. We're not quite there yet, but I appreciate his ability to help us grow.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I attribute all of our growth to him.
Sounds good. It's definitely you.
One
other thing real quick that's really important. Yeah. Peter, you're going to see him in Barcelona. Doug, you're going to hang out with him, doing some art at the Met, have a lunch with him in New York. I think I need to invite him out to go to the mountains in Virginia and go shooting. Yeah, I want to see him with a fully automatic weapon in his hand. I think that'd be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, nothing says European Insurance Association like shooting some guns in rural America.
He would just be so out of his element. I think it would be fantastic to be a part of that and see his growth.
He might be out of his element. I think he can hold his own. And Dylan, I said over the weekend, I want to get our English shooting party together with our rod and gun, Holland and gun rifles.
You're gonna have your fancy over under $100,000 shotguns.
My
Sounds like
hope
a good
is by
time.
bringing them on the talking about them on the show, we get a some type of sponsorship or free merch.
I mean, this is America, so free guns for sponsorship to an MGA.
Yeah, they're an English company though. So
I know, but they sell them in the US, so
that's true.
That's okay.
I have a new segment to end this show, Doug. When we're
not done yet. We're not done.
Oh, okay.
Yet.
We're never.
I thought you were rambling. So
no, but that's just the whole show. And again, hungover. I sent a picture to Chris because I thought he'd like this shirt and that we had it on the show. And his response was, "Do we need to get you a bigger shirt?" And I was like, "God damn it, man!" Yeah. So I guess either I took too small of a shirt or I've gained weight since I got this shirt. Both probably true. Yeah, but guys, let's talk about Scout just real quickly before we end with the new segment. Tickets are on sale. They need to be bought now, today. If you don't buy them today, you can still buy tomorrow, but why wait? Age of the MGA 2026. Maybe 100% discount code, definitely 10%. We don't know. It's a roulette type thing. So see what happens. Put it
definitely
in.
Definitely 10%. Yeah.
Buy your ticket, plane ticket, get your hotel reservation, go to Scout. If you do not go to Scout, I don't know what to tell you.
We're not going to speak to you on the show. William Pitt's not coming for a third time because he's not coming to Scout. Yeah, I mean, he's done. He rejected us. So.
He's out. Yeah. No, but please come to Scout. It's okay. I hung out with Chris last night. The number of people that he can pull into a room in my city nonetheless, New York, he brought people that wouldn't come just for me. And that's what he's going to do in Columbus. So if you are, again, you're an MGA, if you're a vendor, if you're a carrier, investor, and you want to see that ecosystem and all the cool things they got going on in Columbus, you absolutely have to be there. So last time I'll mention it for this show, which is almost over.
Can I mention the fact that New York is not your city, Mr. Connecticut boy?
Well, I mean, it's our company's address. Sure. I'm literally in the city right now. I don't know if you can tell with all the air horns and sirens going on.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean,
still wishes it was New Amsterdam.
Yeah. Oh, God, that would be amazing.
Those were good times.
Those were good times.
All right, Peter, let's wrap it up.
Let's hear it. Yeah. I'm excited.
I just want to give a quick shout out to a few people who've been supporting the show. So thank you to Amy Tarrant for reposting some stuff, to Ross Warren for commenting, to John Songen, a former guest, who sent me some really nice comments about the show. All your comments and likes and reshares and everything like that, we really appreciate it. As Dylan said, we want to grow awareness of this topic, support all these founding MGA partners. So everyone who interacts with us, and even just telling your friends about us, if you're unlike us and have some friends, you can do that. We really appreciate it.
We do appreciate it. Why do you get all the nice mail and I get the hate mail?
Well, I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Doug, you post inflammatory posts on LinkedIn. You're unhireable at this point. Yeah. And I feel like Peter and myself have to make sure that we are always self-employed for the rest of our lives because we're associated with you. It's
nice you guys employ me on this. I thank you for that. And I am going to have to ask for a raise, though.
We're never going to pay you anything. Maybe we'll buy you a bigger Scout shirt, but you know.
Hey, do we? Oh, that would be. I'm getting a bit hot in this tight T-shirt. Do we have another recording tomorrow? I think is that true, or is that next week?
Good question.
I believe we do.
This is how the sausage is made.
We got Steven Schwartz.
Ooh, that's going to be a good one. Yeah, I like
I was going to make the cheesiest joke then, Dylan, but I cannot end.
Oh,
no,
please.
Do it.
Just do it, and then we're going to
do it, and then I'll
stop recording just immediately. Let's go.
Yep.
Oh no! Well, you said we got Steven with shorts, and I was about to say we've also got Steven in trousers, but there we go.
Yeah. All right. Bye bye.